So one of the first times I heard you play was actually in New York at this spot called Local 269. I don't know if you remember, but our mutual friend Brian used to have a multiple band bill thing that he put together there. And I remember watching you play with Brian's band, and there's a particular song by my friend Terriver, guitar player, which I'd played with him at sessions, and it had a bunch of shifting odd meters. And I remember when I played it, having my head glued to the chart, trying not to miss something. And my very first impression of watching you play was, I think you played one chorus looking at the chart, and then you literally closed the book and just played the rest of it by ear and by instinct and didn't miss a beat. So my first question is, how did you get so good at playing songs by ear?
Well, one question. Was that Terra Verchion?
Yes, sir. The one and only.
Of course, yeah. So yeah, serious stuff. Um, Bad dude. I think it came from church. It came from gospel music because there was never any like over I would say the need for learning like from a scholastic standpoint was it just wasn't exaggerated because it was a very like impromptu. You wanted your skill set to be like available to an impromptu type of environment where so you're calling audibles all the time. So it kind of makes you a person that has to listen to song shape and just you kind of add the emotion that deals in the transitions. So I can credit that to church and just the way and veracity most gospel musicians learn and retain music is like it's still it's still something that it creates wonderment for me with certain musicians. I look in the sky, like there's one guy named Daryl Freeman, bass player, and I know like three classic gospel albums that he played on, and he did those albums within the same weekend. Like he did one session like Friday morning, then he did the live session at Friday night, then Saturday during the day he did like Darwin Hobbs. So he basically did like TD Jakes live record, Marvin Sapp, and then Darwin Hobbs. And I mean, maybe I have the artist names, maybe not as accurate, but for sure, at least 2-3 artists and retain everything and nailed. I mean, some of the best stuff you could ever heard from any era of gospel. So yeah, I think it comes from there in my case.
Yeah, I definitely think that my reliance on reading charts probably made me worse at learning stuff by ear. And it almost felt like after I got out of school, remedially I needed to work on that skill again. And it's funny how when I was in high school, all the stories were about like Vinnie Colaiuta reading down the Black Page or Steve Gadd sight reading Asia. So the sight readers were really venerated. But I think at some point maybe we lost a step where there were a bunch of music school kids who thought that if we just hit the figures on the chart, like we had accomplished that chart, as opposed to like really getting deep into it musically. So I'm curious, in your day-to-day these days, what percentage of your gigs would you say require reading versus don't?
Well, currently, I would say it's about a 60-40 split. 60 being people that already have prepared the shapes and narratives to feed. So they're like, yeah, it's like this other thing. And check it out. It's just this B section, like they kind of know compositional models to like abbreviate the amount of research I'd have to do or like to get into everything. So not very many require it. I think some of it is just like experience and pedigree too, where there's things in that they require of me that kind of are just going to happen automatically. Where it's like, well, I don't want to tell you anything about comping because, I want the solos to be really virtuous and to go everywhere. But as it pertains to like, parts or, really advanced compositions where, you're playing these crazy phrases and like odd meters, you're playing like nested triplets and like going back into like a solid 6 and it's got to feel like it. Like They can't feel like you're dragging the other three with you just in midair, So um most of them don't really require much reading, but I will say the reading that is being thrown in my face recently is some serious stuff. I've been playing with like Jose Luis Martins, and he's like a South American jazz artist, or not. I don't want to call him jazz, but just like improvisational guy. Like you can catch him sniffing around progressive stuff. He's got like the Moog and the Whirly and the Prophet. So he gets nasty and everything. Proper fusion guy too. But I mean, what's been thrown at me recently has been like, here's Yatrata and Seven. Here's all this break meter stuff. Then I'm checking out a lot of progressive music anyway, because some of my buddies are doing really well in the progressive scene. So they're always pumping out fresh stuff. But as far as the reading is concerned, I'm not getting anything easy. I haven't been getting not that anything's easy anyways, but I think people just, I don't know, by God's grace, there's so many people that just have garnered so much respect, and um, they just believe in, in the results that, they see me achieve with, my, what would you say, like collaborators and like people who write tunes with me in mind, and, things like that. So that's really fortunate. But I can say everything reading wise I've been getting lately is like, okay, bro, like you need to call Mike Cuffle, like the original dude that was working on reading with you back when I was like 6 or 7. Like this guy had me reading drum set, when I was already dealing with like 36 note figures and like 36 triplets. So I was like, but by the time I got into it, I got into middle school. And I mean, I'm an 80s baby. So I kind of did have a decent school music, public school education. I mean, like I left middle school with a shot at being marginally successful at pursuing music, at the high school and onto the collegiate level. So my dad was kind of like, well, I'll just leave it to those guys, because he did some research on them, and they're all like, Notre Dame and Ole Miss and, McNeese State College graduates. So these are like all legitimate programs. If you look at their marching bands and their concert bands, it's like they're very serious. They're very competitive. So my dad's like, yeah, these guys are good enough. The ones that got the job to be your teacher at your school. So go with them. And that was beneficial too. And nothing about drum set at all at this point, just like really honing in on the reading and stuff. Drum set was an outlet at church. One, I didn't really get to play much because I couldn't carry the service as well. Yet I didn't know the content of the repertoire. It was just like a fire to play. So school became an outlet to like understand or deal in things technically. And it was too early for me to know the difference. This is like second grade.
Yeah. What did you say the name of the teacher was who helped you learn to read? I want to make sure I put that in the show notes.
Oh yeah, Mr. Mitroff. Mr. Mitroff. He he was like a really cool like guy. Like you could tell he wanted to teach. Most of us were a handful because it was sort of an advanced school, like an international magnet program. So it was like very mixed, majority Jewish. So super literate kids. Everybody comes from some background. My parents were preachers, so I came from a very vigorous, like Bible reading, learning Hebrew interpretations and phonetics and like how to pronounce this stuff, the names, Nebuchadnezzar, Melchizedek, like dealing with this stuff from 4 years old. So, um, you know, it was very diverse. So it kind of put me in this sort of environment where I was feeding more into the interaction I was getting from the other people that were studying what I was studying. And Mr. Mitroff was like a really good manager of that. And sad to say, but Mr. Mitroff, like, well, not sad to say, but he became really successful as an educator, and he got a job at the Magnet middle school program down the street, which is like, I'm thinking an immediate raise. And they made him the president of the department. So I think he's been there since I was a child. and he's still there, still pumping out successful people.
Still killing it.
Yeah, so Mr. Mitroff, and then the second tier where it got serious, where it's like, hey, you can be in state band, you could be in Maryland State, Baltimore County band, and that can lead to Maryland State band. Her name was Miss Hodgkinson. She was my teacher at Pikesville Middle. She was really helpful, and this was my most annoying stage. So this is a very enduring type of person, and she really was an educator. Like she really meant to be there. So she got most of us together. Yeah.
So you were playing classical in school. You were playing backbeat stuff and gospel music in church. When did you start getting into jazz?
I started getting into that a little later from the drum perspective. I would say my junior year, it started to dawn on me that jazz is actually, and it's not really a term I'm in love with using. But for just for the sake of what we're talking about, jazz was, I eventually found out that that was the nucleus behind everything I'd ever wanted. And all that I was seeing was all that my favorite guys just had different amounts of it. Like some of them needed a whole and comprehensive traditional base to their approach. Then some were fusion guys who wanted the dexterity of a rocker or a progressive guy, but the touch, sensitivity, and sensibility of a jazz player to be able to change directions, have all of the assortments and stuff that comes with that skill set. And so I kept looking at fusion drummers, and of course the language that they were playing was stimulating enough to keep me into it. But once I got to traditional, I don't think I was yet, a listener that was like listening at a level of maturity to know the value of what I was hearing, that it was actually language, that it was far too sophisticated for me to just jump in and figure it out. It's different than listening to like Dennis Chambers, who started out as a funk legend before he even became a fusion guy. So his nature and instinct to make everything have a solid background into it, no matter how odd it is. It's like he's laying blocks, everybody else can lay brick, stone, tile, and he's just boom, boom, black, boom, black, yeah, black, and I always like that punctuation. I like the way people seemed like they were when he was supporting them. Brecker, it's like I don't think I've heard him play harder or louder than when he's playing with Dennis and James Genus and Jim Beard or whatever. So then that led to me getting more on a traditional point, because then I started seeing like guys like Rodney Green. I started seeing guys like Kendrick Scott, Eric Harland, Greg Hutcherson, John Lampkin. Those are like the main ones that pretty much are like, okay, this is my focal point for what jazz is, because they still have elements of other things. Now I would listen to Tony and Williams, and I'd be like, wow, I mean, you're looking at MJ or something, or like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but at that stage, it's like, why? I don't know why that,
Yeah.
what makes them that. So yeah, that once I heard Harlan, once I heard Blade and Hutch, then I had context for how the things that I was already familiar with are in some ways relative to, straight ahead. Then once I got in and I started, Philly Joe Jones, Elvin Jones, Alan Dawson, Clifford Jarvis, Sunship Theus, or Woodrow Theus, and just so in an endless amount of guys who are all singularly like equally important.
What word would you use to describe what those guys do, since you say you don't like the word jazz?
I think they do improvisational music through whatever lens or niche that we haven't labeled them as, like I'm sure if you asked them what they were doing, and if they felt like, hey, there's a name for what I can do, what I'm doing that's solidified, and it can be through the improvisational lens, then yeah, cool. I just think I would call it improvisational music, and then they could dress it with butter or peanut butter or jelly or whatever they believe is their identity. I don't know. That's just my personal way of looking at it, because the more I've talked to different guys personally, the more I realize it, like, wow, like you are from somewhere that's original and authentic, but it just hasn't been named. Like if
Mm.
you just end up in a place that no one has ever been aware of. And it's like, wow, like the only people that would know what this place could even possibly be named is people that have been there, that can describe, like, hey man, have you been to that place with that strange hill that you can never get to? Then this really bright light that the closer you get, the brighter it gets, and then you just kind of can't see anything. Like you're like, yeah, what is that place? It's like, well, it doesn't have a name. Who knows what that place is? But I've been there, and you've been there, and thing like that. So with jazz, it's gotten so fuzzy because we use singular terms in some ways, or some of our brothers and sisters use singular terms to give a distinction, usually harmlessly. But I would just say what they're doing is improvisational music. Some of them believe that it's something different than music altogether, and I'm open to hear all about it. I mean, I used to buy records just because I saw Bob Moses' name on them. And then it turns out that his spiritual advisor, spiritual leader, Tasiji Munoz, who's really like an innovative avant-garde guitarist, um, renamed him Rock Alarm. So it would almost be really disrespectful, to address him as Bob, even though it's like, man, Bob killed it. Bob did Bright Size Life. Like it's almost like I don't even want to signal towards any of that, because it's like his new identity, is Rock Alarm. So, and he's one of the most authentic in every form of the music, like he's done almost every type of album that you could do under that lexicon or whatever. So genre. Um, yeah, so it's hard to say. I can't speak for all, but as far as it pertains to me, they're all dealing in a very sophisticated version of improvisation. Just from a personal and visceral perspective, most cats have some type of education or some backing to what they're doing.
I think about this a lot too. Bob Moses is a great example. Bob Moses came with John Medeski to my college when I was an undergrad in like the late '90s, early 2000s, and he's very. It seems like his whole thing is just militantly flow state, like just radical authenticity, and that made a big impression. When I think about, for lack of a better word, jazz drummers, I do think like maybe there's a category of people who can play Spangalang on the ride cymbal and hang at smalls, and they have that particular piece in their lexicon. Like if somebody calls for really up tempo with smalls, they know what to do during a bass solo. They know the idiomatic Tony Williams intros and outros. But I take your point too, that the categories kind of destroy some of the cross genre journeys people are trying to take. And from what I've read about Miles Davis and Tony and Herbie, it seems like they were adamantly trying to destroy those categories throughout their careers, right? So in the 60s, they were doing one thing, people were trying to categorize them as that. So then they zigged and created fusion, etc.
I think it's just you finally had an era of people that were hearsed in what they were known for, like now that music was like Prince of Darkness or the VSOP stuff, or like the original stuff with Herbie and Wayne, and like that stuff was like 20 years old, by the time, later down the line. So people had years and years and many programs in many ways of, and studying with their peers to be the next generation of people that wanted to be rockers and wanted to be, you know, high profile and prestigious, in terms of visibility and status in the industry. And Miles was one of the few people that got to taste that. As far as Tony's concerned, yeah, it's the same thing. It's like they wanted to be rock stars. I think they were more into the business aspect of it. They had got used to what music was. I think their period was elegant enough to feed the stuff that they were doing, which is why I think a lot of it came off that way because of the period. And what the reward system in that period was, it seems more like to me, was elegance. Like that they, even the gangsters wanted to wear soft shoes with no socks and take their lady out for the nicest, most expensive, pointlessly tangy bottle of wine. And, just for the total masochist generation, like just shaving with diesel, just really old school, like you're tough guys and you're really soft people. They had that environment to, feed into, and people loved elegance and they loved to revel. Um, and I think I understand where Tony's coming from. I mean, when you have these battles with like a Ringo Starr, who no one can question his reach and contribution to popular music. But when you're talking about Tony Williams, it's like he changed drumming, like he changed the way uh, everyone that heard him, no matter what their level of sophistication, from the moment they heard him, they changed their mind about everything. It literally affected everything they did. So um, it's kind of interesting one though. I think this is one I might have to think about a little more. But um, I can remember hearing stories just about Tony, like seeing the payment, like how much Ringo would get just for appearing, and then Tony'd be like paid like super well for a jazzer, but he's not going to get rich from it or necessarily like, and his contribution is like at this point is massive. So I think that a lot of the reasons that they were trying to kill those titles was because the titles were created and they were never going to profit from, you know, anything. So it for them, it had to be some type of, hey, comprehend that we should be in a better economic position than we are based on our contribution and records sold. And I can't say I don't understand where they're coming from. But it does help us. These terms sometimes do help us navigate the, some of, where people are trying to go, even within the parameters of the music business, where it's like they make the offers. It doesn't matter what you deserve. They create stipulations and you choose from their crazy, crappy, nearly demonic list that pretty much, I think, constricts, like you say, like the cross genre collaborations, which I feel good and bad about. Like there's one where it's like, okay, it's a way to escape the machine department wise. It's like, okay, I can just jump over to this department. And but it produced some trash too. And it produced a lot of good, mostly good. And I mean like overwhelming good, where everyone in this late 70s and 80s had to just have a positive uh outlook on it, because everything that was good was outrageously amazing. You had people that didn't mind adding new things, new sounds. You had Herbie, you had Joe Zawinul. You had these people that like, hey, I put my work in. Like I played with Cannonball for like 25, 30 years. I did these albums, I did that. I'm the real thing. Now I'm exploring and doing another version or department of myself creatively, based on where society is going, where music business is going, and the sounds that people are looking for. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one for me, because I mean, I think that people that learn this music really well, I think they deserve a lot in terms of wanting to have a clear contribution, because this is not something easy to even acquire. Um, so, I mean, for whoever it works for, okay, but I think there's some people that fall under a name that we don't know yet. And it's, they have to mitigate their risk about, whether that affects their success or not.
Yeah. Great segue. I did already want to ask you about whether you think the changes to the landscape, be it social media or YouTube or what's happened with record labels and touring, adds up to be net better or worse for, say, a new drummer, but even just a new musician and entering the ecosystem now, because the gatekeepers are gone. So maybe you start to see more hard to categorize music that's just good, that just you can listen to it on YouTube or Instagram and it just sounds good, so you don't really care what to call it. But on the other hand, you have all these other forces like selecting for like really tightly edited 30-second clips instead of like stretching out over a gig, and then the fact that there's hardly any money to be made from downloads anymore. So yeah, what's your take on all that?
I think the change that we're looking at was inevitable. I think it makes for a clear divide though between real musicianship and all forms of production. Um, I think in the future there may be even less players. I don't want to say like in what category, like maybe guitar players, maybe drummers, but I feel like for the future it's going to be way more expansive. It's just going to be way more people that can go under the label of musician or producer or writer or creator. And so we'll be looking at an ocean of people rather than like a culture or like a network. It'll be like just a whole ocean. Um, what it does for the business is I think is awesome because it gives everybody that autonomy to like, hey, you can blow up overnight. You can find your niche, your niche audience. And I mean, man, if you have like even 100,000 faithful followers and a quarter of them are into everything you make, I mean, you could probably walk away with a decent living, or at least the resources to build whatever you want to full and strong. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I know. It's just looking like there's a less appreciation for the authenticity behind what it really means to play and be a musician. I've noticed that. Um, I think it will be different. I don't know if it'll be better or worse. I think that it'll make it'll have real musicians have to be really adept to technology and aware of things outside of just this singular focus. And I don't know what that's going to do because I mean, that'll probably create more advantages and maybe real musicianship dominates all over again. But with it's just a business, man. As long as we got the business, music business, and it's a real part or it's a real influence on what's created. And it's hard to say, because I see less people making what they like and I see more people making what can work or what they're assuming people like. And that's pretty much based on like borderline plagiarism or just like, hey, everybody likes his album. So yeah, I want those sounds on my album. And I'm gonna go on ahead and shop it out to Vice and Billboard, man. I'm gonna go to Google and everything's in New York, so you can go from one office to the next and go see Puffy. And it's just like you hear these projections and it's like, okay, cool. Like if it can sell, it can sell. But I don't know if I want to conflate it with real musicianship. And I don't want to act as if when I became a musician that I wasn't talking about being a part of those things too. Yeah, I'd play on a Colgate commercial if it came down to it. And it might not go my way either. They might like just have me like in there playing a really groovy groove under like some really chippy, type of advertising. So it's like do 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 spow. That might be like the highlight of my career. But I'm open to it, but I just don't know what to call it. And I don't know if things are going to get better or worse. I just think they're going to be different. And everybody that knows a lot about something else, I guess I'm saying they're going to have to be flexible because it's changing in these new people, characters. They, some of them just have no regard for the art. They're more concerned with the results. And if they get the results, then the art's good. Yeah, not a lot of cats I see like they make this stuff, it's beautiful, they love it, then they share it. It's all like, yeah, this record's gonna do this and this is gonna do that, and then we're gonna impress these folks, and these folks are gonna be sniffing around to see what they can see, and then we're gonna get with him, and it's like it's likely, right? And by a lot, but I don't really see it going down, but I see music just being like totally open. Trying to sell it will be difficult. It's complicated. I don't really know. I guess I should have just said that.
No, that was an interesting meditation. And in the background, I feel like you and Evan are one of the examples that you can do challenging, creative, esoteric stuff and do it for the music and it'll find an audience. And that's that other side I was talking about. So like you and Evan, Lewis Cole, Kneebody, JD Beck and Domi, I think you can find these examples of genres where if it was 2005 and you're meeting with Blue Note or something and they've got a roster and they've got their marketing people trying to decide like, oh, we can only have this many jazz artists on the roster and I'm not sure we can sell this because what do we call it? That's no longer a constraint. And I'll admit we're probably looking at very, very few artists who break through, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say that there's no good side to it at all, just because there have definitely been some amazing things that came from it. So maybe that's why I'm an optimist about it.
I think it can work, but I think like the machine that has been behind this industry, like I don't know what that something has to transform, like it's inevitable. I don't know how it'll change, but I don't really see there being most people are just going to probably feel like becoming a good player. I feel like it's going to be condensed to a much more meaningful group all over again, where you're going to get the people that are going to water it down and Protestantize it and try to make their form the Jeet Kune Do of improvisational music. This is what the cat should have been doing the whole time. This is. But it's so vast, man. It's like, who can say? Who can say? Like there's so many moving pieces to that. I mean, even the jazz industry at large, which is like a lot of European festivals, where I mean, you don't even really have to play in the States to play jazz music, and uh, and then what I'm seeing too is there's been a decline where the guys that are even doing the music are doing something totally different. Like they kind of like, in a way, shame the traditional stuff, like, and for lack of a better, hey man, we got to move forward and get to the new thing. We're doing new stuff, but it's like the new stuff has been like Mark Turner type stuff for the last forever. It's like, okay, like he's the next genius, but like you guys already copy and pasted that, like how soft can you blow your horn hard? It's like, I watch these guys and like nothing's coming out of the horn. Like, man, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like those days are over, buddy. Like, come on, man, give us something. You got something, whoever you are. Like, come on. I mean, but these periods are just like everything's a meme. It's just like some guy, oh, I'm doing this type of thing. Well, I'm doing this type of thing. Yeah, this is I'm in my Billy Pierce type, I'm feeling like Arthur Rames today. Oh, maybe I was feeling, it's like, all right, like I I don't know. I just feel like musicianship in itself is just going like this. Like people that really love it for what it is. It's just becoming this really small group. And the rest of it is everybody that it's just virtue signaling. It's like I don't necessarily want to say you're not something because you didn't study one complete form. I don't want to say that, but when I look at what the form's functions are and how people handle them, and then they want the label, they're like, yeah, I sing jazz. It's like, well, all right, like here. And then they press play and like they're singing over Carmen McRae because they like kind of transcribed it. So I'm like, I think it's impressive that you transcribed it. But I mean, it's an interesting thing. The culture of musicians are changing. I mean, I could see it in my lessons. Like these kids are like, yeah, I want to do like Vinnie Colaiuta thing, and then I want to mix it with Billy Higgins. And I'm saying, yeah, That's the
Come
same
back in
reaction.
30 years.
Yeah, man. Like that's like quantum leaping. That's like
Good luck.
Back to the Future. Like how are I mean, you mixing periods? You mean how are you gonna get the people that love that to like back from death? How are you gonna get the two groups that could make that anything? Like, I mean, but yeah, it is what it is. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it seems like pure musicianship is traveling somewhere like I don't know where.
Yeah, a bunch of directions to go with that. But I think what you're hinting around about is that we're starting to lose some appreciation for the depth of the greats. And that doesn't necessarily mean legacy greats, it could mean contemporary greats. But that comment from a student, I want to mix Billy Higgins and Vinnie Colaiuta, what that exudes to me is kind of this attitude like, I'll learn a couple transcriptions over a weekend and then I'll put this synthesis together rather than each of those people's canon being a lifetime's worth of depth and deserving of at least somewhat more respect than that, which leads me to want to ask. So I was speaking to Mike Mitchell last year, and he, I, so how do I put this? I think he feels like we've lost something when there are no hard knocks in music anymore. And I think he'd be okay with me paraphrasing him, where it used to be if you sat in a jam session, there was someone there who would tell you it was whack if you weren't up to par. Do you feel like we've lost something when it comes to maybe some good-natured hard knocks and some dues paying?
Yeah, I think we're missing the discipleship, the apprenticeship, the brotherhood, sisterhood. We're missing that like guiding force, and because it's all taken as abuse. It's like society is tiptoeing around as we speak for outrage. They don't want any solution in some aspects. They just want the outrage. And I think, yeah, life is the hard knocks. I mean, the world already tells you you suck if you suck, so to create this quest of like, no, it's good, it's great. And, I don't know. It just seems like people are not better. People are protecting their developmental stages because they want to protect their how competent they can get away with seeming or how convincing they can be in a version of competence. But yeah, I see more people trying to achieve the look of competence than the actual skill set. And I think the hard knocks is a great term to use because it just keeps things in perspective. It's like perfect example is when I met Ralph Peterson, my teacher, and his first assessment of me was like, dude, I see that you like have a serious pursuit of technique and you can play some serious stuff. But what I'm trying to figure out is if you're a musician or like just a drummer. Because like you're giving me the feeling that you're just a drummer. Like I can just give you stuff to learn and you'll come back and play it. I can give you records, but like you're not probably not going to get into the music through the chart. You're probably not going to really improve your technique. You'll probably have one standard tuning for your snare drum. Like you won't be flexible enough to make the adjustments that this type of music may require of you. And I just was like, that was like my first, that sit down with him. And I mean, just being destroyed. I mean, that's my freshman year. And he hadn't heard me play in no club or heard me sound convincing over something because he's an expert. And why would he fall for that? And I'm like, well, you got to come see me play down Wally's. I'm playing down there with Jason Palmer and, Lawrence Fields and all these other cats. He's like, I don't care about them. Like, I can hire them to play in my band. I just want to know what your direction is, let me, so I didn't have a direction really. I was talking about like imagery and I'm using imagery to like when I play a certain groove, like if I'm playing like samba, then I'm thinking of the carnival. Like, I mean, in some ways it just, I thought I was thinking that way because I mean, yeah, I had to be resourceful if I wasn't hip to, what it really took. I need to be educated. So, that was really hard for me to accept. I walked away from that sort of like wow, identity crisis. Like, who am I? Like, what is this? Like, if what I have been doing isn't music, and this isn't a place where I can afford to be upset and get the outcome I want, then what is he talking about? And eventually I learned, that yeah, man, you maybe haven't been that much concerned for music in this context. You could care for music that way when it was gospel, and all of the, you know, different things and policies and customs within that art form, that style. But he made it very clear to me that there's a difference between people that just deal with instruments and musicians. And that really kind of was like the beginning of my pursuit as an improvisational musician, because I had to be realistic about what it took to play what I wanted to play, but from a musical perspective. So it just kind of was like a manual reset to everything. But I needed that. I needed Warren Wolf to be like, hey man, if you're not getting it, don't try to play around it. Just read it down and play clear. Keep just practice. Like anybody that's really good at it, they're gonna take you back. Slow down, be practical, read the figures, play the figures. If you're not playing the figures, not time to color the figures. And every guy has a different system. That wasn't the only conclusive way. But I think the missing out on the hard knocks has definitely hurt us. And it's made for a group of people that like can barely endure what it's about, why we need to be so functional and so mature in the way that we deal in this music, because it has to speak to each of the moments that we're in. It's like, it's not just something that's going to be popular because people have an itch for it. It's like, it has to have meaning.
And there's a bit of a paradox too, because there's another group who is going to be harder on themselves than any critic could be. So there's also definitely an element of needing to hollow out a space for you to be yourself and to be okay with yourself not being great, even if you're on the path. And I've struggled to square those, but like one thing that occurs to me is I don't know if I don't know how this binary will land with you, but like there may be a state of mind, which I've been guilty of in my past, where you're just looking for reasons to think you're good. And there's another state of mind where you're honestly and brutally comparing yourself to your heroes and taking stock of how much work you have to put in. And when I think about Hard Knocks, it's not necessarily about taking people down a peg. It's more like calling out the difference. Like, hey, I see you. It appears to me like you're not actually interested in getting better. You're mainly interested in finding evidence to believe that you're already good. Whereas if someone is, am I onto something, or am I?
Flatly on, you are sitting on the throne on something, man. That's like, yeah, that's a tough thing. I meet guys a lot that are already at the start line. They're great. But when they're asking the questions about things, it's like, yeah, you're only signaling towards getting what the ingredients of, yeah, man, you're great. You're this is what the other guy told me, so this is what you should tell me too. Like, come on, like, yeah, I see a group of people that want to be celebrated, but they're only pulling their lint out of their pocket. They want everybody to shut up at their shows. They want everybody to be quiet. And I'm like, man, you didn't even rehearse. Like, you're literally just pulling lint out of your pocket and acting like people that can blow $200 on a good night of drinks and food. It's like acting like those same people can't afford to see the real thing. That's my only thing. It gets embarrassing where it's like, well, if I can come and make money and develop a way to play with you on stage that's enjoyable for us, and it doesn't interrupt people who can afford something that's even better than this, I think that's a fair shake. And especially to say with tips, or then you could have adjustable prices, whatever. It's like, come on, like, let's get realistic. Paid rehearsals. Why do we even have the attitude that these people have to shut up? It's like, you still want this song to work? I guess we might have waited too long for this song to work, like, I don't know, like, but yeah, it just gets to be like gatekeeping without the authenticity. I sometimes, even where I'm at, like in DC, DMV area, you see it sometimes where the lack of apprenticeship, the lack of the hard knocks and cats, really laying in, and it creates this sort of like lazy worker who's just got a handful of stuff that they just wake up with and put out there and start a fire and just start cooking and serving, and it's like, all right, but yeah, it's getting kind of like, I am here on a quest to get around you. Like, I don't need you to teach me. You're going to show me that I'm good enough anyway, because I still have resentment for the first person that brought it to my mind that there are things that I'm going to have to pay more attention to. And to change those things will require all of my effort. That sounds like a mountain to climb to someone who's just trying to get the same validation that they may be getting one or two other places. So
Totally.
yeah, no, I don't think you were reaching at all. I think that's a harder one to bring up because I believe we have some legends in that area where it's like, I know you enjoy your status, however, you can be honest about your position. I get the looking like a thing, but like, why can't we exaggerate what makes you great? Like, I'm if I know who one of the greatest of a character or a department is, then why put me in a position to demonize you when what you are is good enough? Maybe not for you, but for truth's sake, it might be a heck of a lot. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we need some more spankings out there. I don't know what we need, but
Gentle, loving spankings, and for certain people, like proverbial spankings.
proverbial spank. And I mean, a lot of cats need them, bro. Some cats need spankings on compositions. They need their old Phil Woods or Dick Oates or one of these cats who you can't tell to shut up. I think there needs to be more mentorship. There needs to be guys that you can't tell your teacher to shut up. He's already accomplished. You can't, there's nothing. If he notices something, you just got to figure it out. And I mean, we have like our Stanley Clarks, our Grammy Award winning, critically acclaimed everything. But why is it his job to come and sit through your nonsense? When the whole program is for you to only appear a certain way. It has nothing to do with you being the thing. And somebody who has become and is a full manifestation of the thing, I don't imagine that there's a lot of them that they're willing to make available to sit through that, because it's purely for the other person. It's just like, change my pamper while I watch. It's like that type of thing, and it's strange. But yeah, I think I agree with the last 2 points. I can get into that binary, like Hard Knocks. I'm totally with Mike with that, and with the guys that are just kind of fishing for compliments. I guess that's what I'm hunting around for. Just, you want to be convinced that you're already everything that you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I say that with no judgment about those folks, because that was definitely me, and I feel like I wasted a lot of years. And to come full circle, I think for me at least, the fact of social media and the internet cured me of that, among some other things, among some just like, like sitting down with some greats and having them gently, completely humble me. But if there are some people who are listening to this who feel like they're going through that, like maybe that's just a phase, and that doesn't mean that needs to define who you are. And I think for me, one thing I try to keep in mind when I play is like, well, it gets back to that Bob Moses thing, which is like, I'm how good I am, but I don't want to approach performance like trying to put one over on somebody. Like, oh, if I do this lick, they're going to think I'm better than I really am. Like, nope, I'm going to try to give you exactly what I am with all of the warts. And it's pretty proto at this point, but I feel like that's the path I'm trying to strike, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a way to find things. I think it's a navigation tool. And I think oftentimes it's still in people's toolbox, even the people that find like a slightly less dangerous way of travel, but you know, again, it's nothing against anyone, I don't mean to in any ways to be, uh, incendiary towards the people that are there, but I think it's a product of being in a developmental stage and
Mhm.
having your ambition get ahead of where you're currently located, and who knows, the turnover time could be a month, it could be a week, it could be years, based on your
Totally.
design and what you're going to be doing and what's you're going to require of yourself or whatever. But um,
Mhm.
it's something you don't want to get lost in your developmental stages. You want to develop and move on. There's
Totally.
no point that I'm like, I mean, sometimes I get really nice support and compliments about my bass playing, but in reality, I know where I am. It's like I know what type of time I put in with drums. So there's certain things that come with the job that is very easy to do. And some people are like, man, how do you just do that? And it's like, well, I put that type of time in, like I'm still doing it. I still practice, study all of like so many elements of music, like day and night.
Mhm.
I still call my teachers. I still like inbox Dave DeCenso. I still reach out to like, Evan, my friends, you know, whoever, you know, and yeah, it's a lifetime thing. I knew it was going to be something where it was going to require my effort for the whole time.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's pretty much where it is. But I think people deserve to be in a developmental stage. I think they deserve to travel through places that don't have any mini signs. You just have to go get through them, and then once you get to the next city, oh, okay, cool, But yeah, we've lost so much where people just arrive and they're the thing, and it's scary because I think what comes with some of that development is maturity and restraint and tact and humility, deep appreciation for what the thing is, and how many people feed off of it, and how the impact. I think it's a way more beautiful landscape, um than sometimes it gets credit for being, because I think it's just opportunists have turned it into, well, can't you see with the potential? And it's like, yeah, but I also see like hustlers. I don't see people that have an intrinsic interest on this, is that they care so less for what this is and more what they can get out of it, that the goal is just like, yeah, let's ransom off and hoe off this beautiful thing. um and look at those suckers who make it, they how don't they know they could get rich from it? It's like, well, because they love it, and it's their emotional content, and they have their purpose and destiny connected to it, and it's not so cut and dry. um yeah, we got to be careful.
Well, you've been super generous with your time. I really appreciate it. Where would you send people to check out what you've got going on right now?
Dana J Hawkins, Instagram. Kind of getting revamped, after recently. And so I think Instagram would probably be the best place. Any link to anywhere else, I would probably be sharing there, or my Facebook. I think I need to change my Facebook page so everybody can come and say hi and we can all hang out. Um, right now it's the old school, up to 4,000, maybe 5,000 friends. So yeah, but Instagram's the way.
Awesome.
And the sites are Tama, Drum, Zildjian, Vic Firth. Um, sometimes they mention when I do too. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, thanks again, sir. Really appreciate it. Speak to you soon.
My pleasure, Nate. Talk to you soon.